The small town of Millfield, Ohio, had always been quiet, almost unnervingly so. Nestled between dense forests and winding back roads, it was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else, or at least thought they did. For Ryan Harper, Millfield was the perfect playground. Nights were long, empty, and silent, except for the occasional howl of a distant coyote or the rustle of leaves in the wind. Ryan loved the thrill of pushing boundaries. Urban legends, local hauntings, and creepy abandoned buildings fascinated him more than any video game or social media challenge. His friends called him fearless, or maybe just reckless. It all started on a cold Friday evening in late November. Ryan had just left a Halloween party at his friend Marcus's house, the air sharp with frost and fog rolling off the nearby hills. His old Jeep rattled along Hawthorne Road, headlights cutting through the mist, music blaring loud enough to shake the dashboard. That's when he saw her. A figure appeared suddenly in the beam of his headlights, sat first, just a silhouette, impossibly thin, wearing a long, tattered white dress that fluttered unnaturally in the night wind. Ryan slammed on the brakes, tires screeching. The Jeep skidded onto the shoulder, hitting the frost-crusted grass. Heart hammering, he blinked and she was gone. Shaking, he chalked it up to nerves, to Halloween excitement lingering too long. But as he started driving again, he couldn't shake the image. Pale skin, matted black hair, and a strange, jerky movement that seemed more ritual than human. The next morning, Ryan couldn't stop thinking about her. He told his best friend, Eli, a quiet, cautious boy with a camera always hanging around his neck. "I swear, Eli," Ryan said, "I saw someone dancing or, I don't know, moving, but it wasn't normal. It was like she wasn't real." Eli frowned. "You mean like some local urban legend type thing?" "Maybe," Ryan replied, "but she looked like she came out of a nightmare. And the way she moved, I don't know. It was wrong. Wrong in a way that makes your skin crawl." By evening, curiosity had fully taken over Ryan. He convinced Eli to come with him to the spot, a deserted curve on Hawthorne Road, just past Maple Creek Bridge, the place he'd seen her. With his camera ready, Eli trailed behind Ryan as they walked the frostbitten road under the pale glow of streetlights. Hours passed. Nothing. The wind whispered through the skeletal trees, branches scraping the asphalt. Then, just as Ryan was about to give up, he saw her. Under the flickering light of an old street lamp, she appeared, the figure in white. Her movements were disjointed, jerky, almost puppet-like. She twirled slowly, stopping abruptly, as if the wind itself dictated her rhythm. Ryan's breath caught. He lifted his phone to record, but when he pressed play on the camera, nothing appeared. It was as if the lens had refused to capture her. Eli, standing beside him, whispered, "Ryan, what is that?" Before Ryan could respond, the woman's head snapped toward them. Even under the dim light, her hair obscured her face, but Ryan could feel her gaze pierce straight through him. She tilted her head unnaturally, then moved toward them. Each step a crackle of broken bones, each motion unsettlingly precise. They ran. The moment they reached the Jeep, she was gone. No footprints in the frost, no sound except their ragged breathing. But when Ryan glanced in the rearview mirror, he swore he saw her standing in the middle of Hawthorne Road, her white dress glowing faintly, and then, nothing. At home, Ryan couldn't sleep. The vision of her, the unnatural way she moved, lingered in his mind. And then, at 3:17 a.m., his phone vibrated. A single message appeared. "I see you." Ryan jolted upright, heart racing. The number was unknown, the message brief. A cold chill crawled down his spine. It was only the beginning. The next morning, Ryan couldn't shake the chill from the previous night. His hands trembled slightly as he sipped coffee, staring at the frost-covered streets outside his bedroom window. The message on his phone, "I see you," hadn't been deleted, hadn't disappeared, and hadn't had any reply number. Every rational part of him screamed to ignore it, but curiosity clawed louder than fear. He called Eli, who picked up on the second ring, his voice tight. "Ryan, you don't know what you're getting into?" "What do you mean?" Ryan asked, trying to mask his anxiety. "I've been looking into it," Eli said slowly, a pause heavy with dread. "There are old stories. Millfield isn't just a quiet town. There's history here. People vanish. People see things, and some call her the White Dancer." Ryan's stomach twisted. The White Dancer. Eli explained that locals spoke in hushed tones about a woman in white who appeared on certain nights, always under streetlights, always moving in ways that made people feel like their bones were bending the wrong way. "They say she's not human," Eli whispered. "And if she notices you, you don't just see her, you feel her. She takes things, memories, objects, even people." Ryan's mind raced. He remembered the way she moved, the crackling of her bones as she approached under the streetlight. It wasn't just a legend, it was real. "I think we need to find out why," Ryan said, gripping his phone. "If she's real, we need to understand her pattern. We need to record her, document her. Maybe then we can stop whatever this is." Eli hesitated. "Or maybe she's already aware of us." The night fell faster than Ryan expected. The cold bit at their faces as they drove to Maple Creek Bridge, the same place she had appeared. Their cameras and phones were ready, flashlights trembling in their hands. Fog rolled off the creek, swallowing the headlights in a thick, gray haze. Hours passed. The street lamp flickered. Shadows stretched like fingers across the road. They saw nothing. Every snap of a twig, every rustle in the brush made their hearts leap. And then, just as midnight struck, the light under the street lamp flickered violently in. She appeared. The White Dancer. Her movements were jerky, almost mechanical, yet disturbingly smooth. Each spin seemed to bend the laws of gravity, her feet sliding across the asphalt without sound. Ryan raised his phone to record. The camera worked. This time, he could see every horrifying detail. The way her hands twitched, her head tilting at impossible angles, the long black hair hiding her face, and knife glinting in her hand. Eli whispered, "She's doing it again. The ritual." Ryan's stomach sank. Ritual? What kind of ritual? He watched, frozen, as she moved in strange circles, tapping her knife to the ground, then spinning abruptly, pointing directly at them. Suddenly, the air turned cold. Their breaths became visible, and fog swirled unnaturally around her. The camera battery began to drain rapidly, as if the darkness itself was devouring power. Ryan whispered, "We need to leave now." But Eli, captivated by her movements, froze. "Wait. Look at this," he murmured. The White Dancer stopped. Slowly, she raised her head. Her hair fell aside just enough for them to glimpse a pale, cracked face. Eyes black as void stared straight at them. Her mouth opened in a silent scream, yet the air vibrated with an echoing, bone-chilling whisper. "You cannot leave. Not yet." Ryan grabbed Eli's arm. They ran, feet slipping on frost, hearts hammering. As they reached the jeep, Ryan glanced back. She was gone. No trace. No footprints. Yet the streetlight flickered violently, casting shadows that seemed to dance, like her. Back in Ryan's room, he reviewed the footage. The video captured her movements perfectly, but every time she spun, her image seemed to blur, elongate, as if the film itself was bending around her. One frame showed her standing behind Eli, even though he had been standing in front the entire time. Eli's voice trembled. "Ryan, she's not just haunting places. She's watching us, following us." Ryan felt it too. The hair on his neck stood on end. The shadows in his room shifted unnaturally. And then, his phone vibrated. Again, closer than you think. A chill ran through their veins. The White Dancer had noticed them, and whatever she was planning, it was far from over. Ryan couldn't sleep that night. Every shadow in his room seemed to twitch unnaturally, and every creak of the house sounded amplified. The footage from Maple Creek Bridge played endlessly in his mind, the way her body moved, impossibly fluid yet grotesque, the black void of her eyes, and that silent, bone-chilling whisper, "You cannot leave." Not yet. Eli had left for the night, too terrified to stay. But Ryan felt a compulsion he couldn't explain. He had to know more. Around 2:30 a.m., Ryan's room went cold. Not the usual chill of Ohio winter, but an unnatural frost creeping along the walls, crawling across the carpet. His breath formed visible clouds in the darkness. Then he heard it. A soft, rhythmic tapping, like tiny nails on wood. At first, he thought it was the old floorboards settling, but the sound grew louder, sharper, more deliberate. It was coming from his closet. Ryan froze, heart hammering. He considered grabbing a baseball bat, but his legs felt rooted to the carpet. Then he saw it, the shadow of a figure, elongated and twisting, moving inside the closet as if it wasn't bound by the walls. Her dance, the White Dancer, was inside his house. Her jerky, ritualistic movements distorted the shadows on the walls, stretching them into grotesque shapes. Ryan could hear the faint scrape of her knife against the wood floor, each sound echoing in the silent house. He fumbled for his phone, shining the flashlight into the closet. The light fell on empty space, but the shadow remained. It danced toward him, growing taller, darker, more menacing with every flicker. Ryan ran. He bolted into the kitchen, flinging doors open, flipping on lights, but she was everywhere and nowhere at once. His camera caught glimpses of her in the hall mirror, reflected twice, then a third time where no reflection should exist. Ryan's phone buzzed. A single, new message. "Closer than your fear." Panic surged. He realized she wasn't just a presence at Maple Creek Bridge. She was following him, watching him. Inside his home, she could manipulate the shadows, the angles, the very air around him. The next morning, Ryan tried to convince himself it had been a dream, but Eli's call confirmed his worst fears. "Ryan, I've been digging into mill records. People disappear, sometimes for weeks, sometimes forever, all linked to that street lamp near Maple Creek Bridge." Ryan's hands shook as he listened. "And the White Dancer?" he asked. "She's real, and she's older than the town. Some old diaries I found talk about a woman who danced in white under every streetlight, claiming souls for something she called the collection." Ryan swallowed hard. "Collection?" Eli's voice dropped to a whisper. "Yeah, the diaries. They say she doesn't just haunt. She takes things most important to you. And the more she dances around you, the more she wants." The two friends planned to visit the Millfield Historical Society, a dusty building filled with old newspapers, letters, and diaries. They hoped to uncover more about her origins and perhaps a way to protect themselves. That night, armed with cameras, flashlights, and a growing sense of dread, Ryan returned to Maple Creek Bridge. Fog rolled in thicker than before. The flickered, weakly illuminating the curve, and she appeared. The White Dancer spun in the mist, knife glinting. But this time, she was closer, somehow aware of their investigation. Her body contorted unnaturally, shadows stretching across the road, crawling toward Ryan like living creatures. Eli whispered, voice trembling, "She knows we're coming for her. She's aware." Ryan nodded, paralyzed by fear and fascination. He raised the camera, capturing every grotesque, impossible movement. Every spin seemed to warp the fog, twisting reality around her. Then, she stopped, her gaze fixed on Ryan. The shadows lunged. The morning after the encounter at Maple Creek Bridge, Ryan didn't speak. He couldn't. The images of the White Dancer, her impossible contortions, the way the shadows seemed alive, the knife glinting in the fog, kept replaying in his mind. Eli was quiet too. but his hands shook as he packed the camera gear into his backpack. "We need to go to the Historical Society," Eli said, finally breaking the silence. "If we're going to survive, we need to understand her." The Millfield Historical Society was a gray, imposing building that looked almost abandoned. Dust coated the windows and the steps creaked underfoot. Inside, it smelled of mold and old paper. Old newspapers, letters, and diaries lined the shelves, most of them forgotten. Ryan and Eli split up, scanning the archives. After nearly an hour of searching, Ryan stumbled upon a leather-bound journal, its cover cracked and worn. Flipping it open, he read the first entry. "She danced under the lamps. She took what she desired. None could escape her gaze. The town forgot, but she remembers. She collects." Eli appeared beside him, holding a stack of yellowed newspapers. "There are dozens of stories," he said. "People disappearing. All reported seeing her first. Some say she's older than the town itself. Some say she's a curse left by someone, wronged long ago." Ryan's stomach tightened. A curse? But why now? Why us? Eli's eyes were wide. "She's aware. She follows patterns. She's testing us, learning us." That night, back at Ryan's house, unease filled every corner. He tried to sleep, but even the smallest shadow seemed alive. At 2:17 a.m., the temperature in his room dropped sharply. Frost formed on the window panes. His breath became visible, and then tapping, soft but deliberate, echoing across the floorboards. Ryan froze. The White Dancer had arrived. Her shadow slithered across the walls, larger than before. Her distorted, jerky movements created impossible angles, bending reality. The knife glinted in the dim light, reflecting more than the room it reflected a nightmare, an echo of all the missing people in Millfield. Ryan grabbed the baseball bat from under his bed, but it felt useless, powerless against her. The shadows stretched, reaching toward him, filling the room. Panic clawed at his chest as he realized she didn't just want to scare him, she wanted something. Something personal. Suddenly, a whisper filled the air, low and echoing. "The one you love, I take." Ryan's heart stopped. He thought of his younger sister Maya, asleep down the hall. He ran toward her room, but the shadows blocked the hallway. Every step he took felt heavier, like invisible hands were holding him back. Eli's voice came from the doorway, trembling. "Ryan, don't fight it. She's not just in the street anymore. She's here, inside. She follows the mind, the fear, the connections." The White Dancer appeared at the end of the hallway, her knife glinting. Her hair fell over her face, partially revealing eyes that were entirely black, void-like. Her movements were unnatural, every twist and spin impossible. The shadows around her writhed like living creatures. Ryan yelled for Maya, and she appeared at the doorway, drawn by the sound of his voice. The moment she stepped into the hallway, the White Dancer froze, staring. Then she laughed a soundless, bone-chilling vibration that resonated through their chests. Before Ryan could react, the figure spun, the knife slicing through the air, and vanished. The shadows returned to their normal shape. The temperature slowly climbed back to normal, but the room felt empty, hollow. Ryan, Eli, and Maya looked at each other, silently understanding that their encounter wasn't over. The White Dancer didn't just haunt streetlights anymore. She could reach into their home, into their lives, into their minds. Eli's voice broke the silence. "We need a plan, and we need to know what she really wants." After the terrifying night in Ryan's house, sleep became impossible. Shadows moved differently now. Even the street outside seemed alive. He could almost feel her watching, waiting for the moment she could strike again. Eli and Ryan returned to the Millfield Historical Society the next day, determined to find answers. They pored over old newspapers, town records, and diaries, hoping to uncover the origin of the White Dancer. Eli flipped through a brittle, yellowed journal. "Look at this," he said, pointing to an entry dated 1892. She comes for those with the purest hearts, taking memories, loves, and lives. Her dance is a ritual. We cannot stop her, only hide from her gaze. Ryan's eyes widened. A ritual. This isn't just haunting. It's intentional. Further digging revealed a series of unsolved disappearances dating back over a century. Every missing person was last seen near street lamps, always under misty nights, always after witnessing her dance. But there was something more disturbing. Case included reports of shadows moving oddly, objects disappearing, and witnesses hearing whispers from nowhere. Eli's face went pale. She's not bound by location. She follows energy, fear, connections. And if you look at these records, every generation of Millfield has had someone affected. Ryan swallowed hard. He thought of Maya and the terror in her eyes the previous night. So she's been here all along, hiding in plain sight, waiting for Esau, anyone to notice her. That night, Ryan tried to stay awake, determined to face the White Dancer head on. Eli stayed with him, camera ready. The street outside flickered, casting long shadows across the room. Time passed, hours slipped by, and then soft, deliberate hopping on the window. Ryan's blood ran cold. She was here. The White Dancer appeared on the front lawn, her tattered white dress glowing faintly in the street lamp's flicker. Her movements were jerky, disjointed, like a puppet controlled by unseen strings. Her knife glinted, reflecting the dim light as she twirled in an unnatural rhythm. Ryan and Eli grabbed flashlights and cameras, aiming toward her, but she didn't move toward them immediately. Instead, she raised her head slightly, and in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, whispered, "I am closer than your walls, closer than your eyes. The next one you love, I will take." The words froze Ryan's blood. Maya, upstairs, whimpered. The White Dancer pointed a slow, deliberate gesture toward the house. The shadows shifted, crawling up the walls and over the ceilings. Ryan realized she was marking them, binding them with her ritual, making them pray. Then she disappeared, vanishing as suddenly as she arrived, but not without leaving a warning. A single, blackened feather lay on the porch. Ryan picked it up, trembling. It felt icy and heavy, like it carried the weight of every missing soul Millfield had ever lost. Eli's voice was low, fearful. "We need to find out how to stop her before she comes for Maya, before she comes for us." Ryan nodded. There was no other option. The White Dancer wasn't just haunting Millfield. She was a predator, intelligent, patient, and growing stronger with every encounter. Their only lead now was the oldest records, diaries, and stories in town. Somewhere in the past, someone had fought her, or at least tried. And if they were going to survive, Ryan and Eli had to uncover it. The air in Millfield felt different that night, heavier, colder, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Ryan and Eli returned to the Historical Society, determined to find a way to stop the White Dancer. Dust motes floated in the dim light, and the scent of old paper filled the musty building. Eli flipped through a leather-bound tome, its pages brittle with age. "Look at this," he said. "It's instructions, rituals, some kind of protective rites used by the town founders to ward her off. They called it the Binding Dance." Ryan leaned closer, squinting at the faded ink. "It says, she's not just a ghost. She's an entity born from grief, rage, and obsession. She collects memories, emotions, and connections. That's why she follows some people more than others." Eli's face paled, and the worst part, she can manipulate reality, shadows, reflections, even people's perceptions. That's why our cameras can't always capture her fully. That's why last night felt like the house was alive. Ryan shivered. So she can reach us anywhere, even here, even now. Hours passed as they pored over the journals. Every page seemed to echo with the horrors of the past. townspeople disappearing, strange rituals under street lamps, cryptic warnings scribbled in margins. The White Dancer had been here long before Millfield was founded, and she was patient. Centuries of waiting had honed her power. That night, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow flickered unnaturally. Every floorboard creak sounded amplified. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the wind stopped. Silence fell like a weight, pressing against their chests. Then she appeared. The White Dancer was no longer just under the street lamp outside. Her form shimmered in the hallway, impossibly tall, hair cascading like darkness over her pale, fractured face. Her knife reflected the moonlight streaming through the window, and the shadows seemed to crawl behind her, reaching toward the boys like living fingers. Ryan tried to speak, tried to call her name, but his voice caught in his throat. Eli's camera captured it all, but the footage already began to distort. Every frame twisted, as if reality itself refused to contain her. The White Dancer moved closer. Each step she took made the shadows ripple across the walls, warping the hallway. A whisper came, louder this time, echoing from every corner. "You cannot hide. You cannot run. Everything you love belongs to me." Ryan realized something horrifying. She wasn't just marking them. She was feeding on their fear, their connection, their very bond. Every heartbeat, every glance shared between Ryan and Eli strengthened her, making her stronger, more dangerous. Suddenly, visions appeared before them, ghostly images of Millfield residents from a century ago, dancing in white, their eyes black voids, moving in the same jerky, unnatural way. And then the realization struck them. These weren't just visions. These were the souls she had collected. Trapped in some endless dance of torment, Eli whispered, trembling. "If she keeps collecting, there will be nothing left of us. Not memories, not lives, nothing." Ryan's mind raced. The journals had hinted at a ritual, the binding dance, but it was fragmented, incomplete. To save themselves, they would have to reconstruct it perfectly, or risk becoming part of her collection forever. The White Dancer's form grew larger, filling the room with darkness. She lunged, shadows snapping like whips. Ryan and Eli barely dodged, retreating toward the exit, hearts hammering. Outside, the fog had thickened, curling around the trees like living serpents. The street lamp outside flickered violently, as if summoning her. Ryan knew one thing. The White Dancer wasn't just haunting Millfield anymore. She was hunting. And soon, the hunt would come for everyone he cared about. Ryan couldn't sleep. Every shadow in his room seemed to move with a life of its own, and the faintest creak made his heart pound. The events at Maple Creek Bridge, the messages on his phone, the shadows in his house, they weren't just coincidences. The White Dancer was following them, studying them, learning them. Eli arrived at Ryan's house that evening, carrying a small stack of old journals and fragments of newspapers he had pieced together. "I think I have something," Eli said, spreading the pages across Ryan's desk. "It's part of the ritual, the binding dance, but it's incomplete. We'll have to reconstruct it from scattered fragments. Timing, movements, words, everything matters." Ryan frowned, running his hands through his hair. "We don't even know if it will work. If we mess up," a sudden tapping on the window cut him off. Frost crept across the glass, forming patterns like skeletal fingers. The White Dancer stood outside, impossibly tall, her dress glowing faintly in the dim streetlight. She didn't move toward them yet. Instead, she stared, her black eyes like empty pits, and her lips moved without sound. Then the illusion began. The walls of Ryan's room seemed to stretch and warp. Shadows danced independently of their owners. His reflection in the mirror flickered, showing not his own face, but her twisted, fractured visage. Eli whispered, voice trembling, "She's messing with our minds. She's trying to isolate us." Ryan's stomach twisted. Every fear he'd ever felt seemed amplified. The White Dancer's whispers echoed in the room. You cannot hide. You cannot trust what you see. Everything you love is mine. Suddenly, Ryan saw Maya appear in the hallway, her face pale, eyes wide, calling for him. He ran toward her, but as he approached, she flickered and disappeared. His heart nearly stopped. Eli grabbed his arm. Ryan, she's creating illusions. That wasn't Maya. Panic surged. The boys realized that the White Dancer didn't just haunt the physical world. She could manipulate reality itself, making them see and feel things that weren't real. Every step they took, every glance they made, could be a trap. Desperate, they returned to the journals, trying to reconstruct the binding dance. Each fragment described precise movements, spoken words, and the timing synchronized with the moon's position and streetlights. One mistake could be fatal. As they worked, a shadow moved behind them. Ryan spun around, but the room was empty. Then the whisper came again. You can run, but you cannot escape me. Eli's flashlight flickered. When it returned, he was staring at something on the floor, Maya's favorite necklace, blackened and cold, wrapped in frost. Ryan's blood ran cold. She had touched it. She was testing them, marking them. Hours passed in tense silence. Every small noise, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the heater, even their own breathing felt amplified, like a drumbeat announcing her approach. Then Ryan noticed something horrifying. The shadows of the room weren't behaving normally. They were curling toward the windows, stretching toward the street lamp outside. The White Dancer had gone, but her presence lingered, crawling into their minds, preparing for the next attack. Ryan whispered, voice tight with fear. She's learning us. The more we fear, the stronger she gets. Eli nodded grimly. Then we have to finish the ritual. Tonight, before she comes back. Before she takes something, or someone we can't replace. The night air was thick with fog as Ryan and Eli approached Maple Creek Bridge, carrying the fragments of journals and their flashlights. The street lamp flickered weakly, casting long, twisted shadows that seemed to reach toward them. Every instinct screamed to run, but they knew they had no choice. The White Dancer was growing stronger, and tonight they would attempt the ritual, the binding dance. Remember, Eli whispered, every movement, every word, perfectly. If we falter, she'll know. She'll take something, or someone. Ryan nodded, gripping his flashlight like a weapon. The fog swirled around them, and then, in the dim light, she appeared. The White Dancer stood at the edge of the lamp's glow, her knife reflecting the faint light. Her body jerked unnaturally, her movements twisting in ways that made Ryan's stomach lurch. Her black eyes locked onto theirs. She whispered, voice echoing through the fog, you cannot escape. Not tonight. They began the ritual, moving in the precise sequence described in the journals. Ryan spoke the words aloud, each syllable trembling on his lips. Eli followed, mirroring the motions. The air grew colder, fog thickening, shadows twisting dots. Suddenly, the White Dancer lunged, not physically, but in a way that made the ground warp. Beneath their feet, her form flickered, multiplied, creating dozens of illusions, each one spinning, twirling, knife glinting, eyes black voids, staring into their souls. Ryan gasped. One of the illusions grabbed Eli. He struggled, but it felt real, as if his friend had been snatched into the shadow itself. Panic threatened to break Ryan's concentration. Focus. Focus on the ritual. Eli shouted through gritted teeth, struggling against the illusion. Ryan forced himself to continue, repeating the precise steps. The fog thickened to near impenetrable density, but each motion and word seemed to push the illusions back, keeping the White Dancer at bay just barely. Then, a horrifying realization. The illusions weren't just distractions, they were reflections of fear, of guilt, of memories she had collected from the town over decades. Ryan saw visions of missing townspeople, their faces twisted in silent screams, shadows reaching for him. One of the figures reached out, pale fingers curling toward his face. Ryan stumbled, but remembered the final step of the ritual, a movement that mimicked her dance, synchronized with the street lamp's flicker. He spun, repeating the motions perfectly. Eli followed, and the air snapped with a high-pitched vibration, like glass breaking in every direction. For a moment, everything froze. The illusions vanished. The fog retreated. The white dancer's form wavered, almost unstable. Her eyes, black voids, stared directly at them. Then she screamed not with sound, but with a force that made the ground tremble, and she vanished. Silence. Only the weak flicker of the street lamp remained. Ryan and Eli gasped, shaking, unsure if she had retreated or been banished. The binding dance had worked, partially, but Ryan noticed something horrifying. On the ground where she had stood, a single, blackened footprint remained, and etched into the frost on the street lamp's base was a message, written as if by invisible hands. "This is not over. I will return." Eli looked at Ryan, voice trembling. "We slowed her, but she's not gone. Not really. She's learning, watching, waiting." Ryan clenched his fists, determination hardening in his chest. "Then we prepare. We learn everything. We protect everyone we care about. And next time, we end this." But as they walked back to the Jeep, a shadow flickered in the corner of Ryan's eyes, a fleeting glimpse of her, twisting unnaturally in the fog. She was still there, always watching, always hungry. Ryan's house felt wrong that night. The shadows crept along the walls, twisting unnaturally, even with all the lights on. He had double-checked every door, every window but the white dancer's. Presence didn't obey normal rules. She could reach through shadows, illusions, and even reflections. Eli arrived, carrying the journals and camera gear. "We have to reconstruct the final part of the binding dance," he said, voice tense. "Everything depends on it. But she's escalating. She knows we're close." Ryan nodded. "And she's already targeting people we care about." His thoughts immediately went to Maya. Safe upstairs but vulnerable. They set up cameras and lights, preparing to observe and document any sign of her. As midnight approached, the fog outside thickened. The street lamp across the road flickered violently, and the air grew frigid. Then she appeared. The white dancer wasn't distant this time. She was inside the property line, her knife gleaming faintly. Shadows twisted around her like living tendrils, reaching toward the house. Ryan's stomach churned as he realized the illusions had begun again. Maya appeared in the living room, pale and frightened, calling for Ryan. But as he ran to her, she flickered and, in that moment, Ryan realized it wasn't Maya at all. The white dancer was shaping her image, using the girl's likeness to break their focus. Eli shouted, "Don't look. Focus on the ritual." Ryan spun, repeating the sequences from the journals. Each movement had to be perfect. The white dancer lunged with shadows and illusions, stretching them across the room. Ryan's camera captured glimpses of ghostly figures, faces of missing Millfield residents, eyes wide, mouths screaming silently. Suddenly, a horrifying scream rang out. Ryan looked up. This time, it was real. Maya had been pulled into a corner of the house, shadows curling around her. Her eyes were wide in terror, frozen. The white dancer had breached their defenses. Ryan's heart pounded. "Eli, we have to save her." Eli grabbed Ryan's arm. "If we break the ritual now, she takes Hermaby more. We have to finish it." Every movement, every word, became a struggle against fear. Ryan felt the shadows trying to claim him, trying to make him falter. He could hear whispers. "She belongs to me. All you love belongs to me." Summoning every ounce of courage, Ryan and Eli completed the final steps of the binding dance. The shadows writhed violently, then began to retreat. The white dancer screamed, her form distorting, fracturing. The fog thinned, the shadows dissolved, and the house's temperature slowly returned to normal. Maya collapsed into Ryan's arms, trembling but safe. The White Dancer had vanished this time, leaving no mark, no warning. But as Ryan held his sister, he realized something chilling. The black feather, the symbol of her presence, had appeared on his desk. She hadn't been banished. She was still out there, watching, waiting. Ryan looked at Eli, voice grim. This isn't over. She's patient. She's stronger than we thought, and she will come back. Eli nodded silently. We need to know everything about her origin. Every ritual, every record, or next time, she won't leave anything behind. Fog hung heavy over Maple Creek Bridge, twisting around the street lamp like living smoke. Ryan, Eli, and Maya stood at the edge of the bridge, the black feather from the previous night clenched in Ryan's hand as a reminder of the White Dancer's lingering presence. This ends tonight, Ryan whispered, his voice tight with fear and determination. We finish the binding dance. No mistakes. Eli nodded, holding the reconstructed journals tightly. We have all the steps now. Every movement, every word. If we fail, she takes more than just fear, she takes lives. Forever. The flickered violently, then illuminated her. The White Dancer emerged from the fog, taller and more terrifying than ever. Her tattered white dress fluttered unnaturally. Shadows twisted and writhed around her like black smoke, reaching toward them, curling through the fog. Her knife gleamed, reflecting centuries of collected terror. Ryan stepped forward, repeating the ritual motions, speaking the incantation aloud. Eli mirrored him, following the precise steps. The air thickened, freezing their breaths, bending reality around them. The White Dancer's screams, silent but deafening, filled the night. Then she spoke, her voice like ice scraping through. Bone, you think you can bind me? I am eternal. I am every fear, every loss, every shadow in this town. You cannot stop me. As she lunged, reality warped. Ryan saw visions of Millfield over the centuries, missing townspeople, shadows dancing under street lamps, lives stolen, rituals performed in vain. Every soul she had ever claimed twisted in agony, calling for release. Ryan's heart pounded. He remembered the journals. The original ritual wasn't meant to destroy her, it was meant to contain her, to bind her essence into a single point under the light of a street lamp at midnight, where her power could no longer reach the living. With Eli's voice guiding him, Ryan completed the final sequence, spinning and chanting with perfect precision. The fog thickened, then split, as if pulled apart. Shadows shrieked and writhed, clawing at the air, reaching for him, for Eli, for Maya, but failing. The White Dancer screamed again, this time with a sound that shook the bridge itself. Her body contorted violently, twisting in impossible angles. The knife slipped from her hand, clattering to the ground, but she remained upright, eyes black, voids blazing. Ryan completed the last movement. He thrust his hands toward the street lamp, reciting the final incantation. Light erupted, blinding and pure, swallowing the fog, the shadows, the figure before them. The White Dancer's scream echoed one final time, then vanished into a single black point of light that imploded with a deafening silence. When the light faded, the street lamp flickered normally, the fog lifted, and the air warmed. The bridge was empty, silent, but for the wind. Maya ran to Ryan, hugging him tightly. Is it over? She whispered. Ryan looked down at the black feather in his hand. It had turned to dust. Slowly, he nodded. It's over, for now. Eli exhaled, relieved but wary. She's gone. But she existed for centuries. Some part of her might still linger. We need to keep the records, keep the journals. The town can't forget again. Ryan looked out over Maple Creek, reflecting on everything that had happened, the fear, the shadows, the terror of the unknown. The White Dancer had been relentless, patient, and intelligent. She had tested their courage, their bonds, their sanity, but together, they had survived. But, for now, And as they walked away from the bridge, the first light of dawn breaking through the mist, Ryan couldn't shake a final thought. Somewhere, deep in the shadows, the essence of the White Dancer still lingered, watching, waiting for the next dance.